join this carriage with Madame Briand, who is the cat. I get often asked if I watch this or that series with a supposed historical plot or historical film, and the reply is I don't. And it's not really that I don't like this wonderful polyester outfit, this rewriting of history, or this taste which only reflect the 21st century taste, or these poor dialogues. It's not that I don't like any of these things. It's because I have access to something 10 times better. The memoirs of characters who actually lived during that period of time and who share their experiences with their own words without any filters of any kind and in all its juicy details. Now you may think that these books are boring. Well, let me tell you that none of your historical series can compete with the memoirs we are about to explore. In this first episode of our Versailles Chronicles, we are going to explore the memoirs of a character who lived during the Louis XV and Louis XVI era. You want some battle and some glory? We will take this ship and we will go to America to do the Independence War with our hero. We will follow our hero at Yorktown as he's defeating Captain Tarleton and the English army. He was a favorite of George Washington, and we will also see him teaching a lesson of war to a complete incompetent American general. It's going to be very interesting. You want some Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice flavor? We are going to travel in 1767. Jane Austen was not even born yet, and we are going to see our hero in a total Mr. Darcy moment. No, better than Mr. Darcy, because Mr. Darcy, he doesn't have an earring and he doesn't have powdered hair. We are going to see Sarah Lennox as she arrives at Le Prince de Conti's house. You want a perfect Sense and Sensibility moment? We will see Fanny and Marion Harland, who are two sisters that our character is going to meet, and Marion is in love with our hero. You want some spicy scenes? I know you have a lot of spicy scenes in your series. Well, an entire page of the memoirs, when they were published in 1821, has been deleted from the book. This page was considered widely inappropriate for the strict 19th century. And it is a moment that our hero relates a night he spent with a cousin of La Marquise de Pompadour. Now you want the Queen. We will see what our hero has to say about Marie-Antoinette and her feelings for him. You want an extravagant English woman? You will meet the beautiful Lady Barrymore, who is going to teach a hard lesson to our hero. You want some despair and some passion? We will follow our hero on a vessel in the ocean as he is sick and feverish, and he has to attach all the letters of his beloved mistress on his heart while the English army is attacking his ship. Who will be the characters of our series? Le Duc de Lauzun, who is an officer, a spy who has worked for the court of France, is very close from the court. Le Duc de Choiseul, who is his uncle, who is a minister of Louis XV, and possibly his father. We will have Madame Briand, the cat of La Maréchale de Luxembourg, who is a superstar. We will have Cathédrale, the famous Cathédrale, the favorite ship of La Duchesse de Choiseul, the aunt of our hero. And we will have Lady Barrymore, Marion Harland, Mrs. Robinson, Sarah Lennox, and many other English ladies. And there will be also Marie-Antoinette, who is in love with our Duke. These memoirs were written by the Duc de Lauzun in 1784. As is written from the Independence War for a woman he was passionately in love with at the time, They were never meant to be published. They were never meant to be read by you and me and by the public. After his death, the manuscript of his memoir has been shared and has traveled, has been copied, and was eventually published in 1821. The moment the book was published, eventually in 1821, a tempest of insult, blame, criticism arrived from all parts to put some blame on the author. Even one of his former friends, Talleyrand Périgord, who was a minister at the time, said that it was a work of darkness. And many say that it was impossible that such a gallant man should have compromised the reputation of so many women, including Marie-Antoinette. Now, most of the women he's mentioning in his book were still alive at this time. They were in their 60s, 70s, or early 80s, or late 50s, and they were a little ashamed of something they had done in their youth. A lot of people say that it was full of lies, and two women especially wrote in their memoirs a defense of Marie-Antoinette and tried to show the stories he's mentioning in his book with their own perspective, and trying to say that everything he said about her was complete lies. We will talk more about these two women and these memoirs a bit later. But one of his descendants in 1930 wanted to know the truth. He went into the National Archives, into the War Archives, the Foreign Affairs Archives, everything he could find to check all the facts, all the events he's relating, the little details he's mentioning in his book, to see if they were true or not. And it happens that every single thing is true, and his descendant found out that he was writing masses of letters while he was a spy or when he was an officer, and also very detailed reports. Like, he was not doing nothing, he was working constantly. And the reports he's mentioning here and there between different love affairs were actually massive work. So it just showed a completely different light, the work he had done in the archives. The only thing he couldn't check and validate was what he says about Marie-Antoinette and the feelings Marie-Antoinette had for him. This doesn't appear in any letter. Of course, it was completely private, but everything else is absolutely 100% true. He didn't lie about anything. He could have, but he didn't. So why would he have lied about Marie-Antoinette? Now, for 250 years, the Duc de Lauzun has been remembered as a lazy caricature of the aristocrat of the 18th century, doing nothing, being lazy, spending his money, gambling, having love affairs all the time. What is certain is that he has been the most complete, brilliant embodiment of the 18th century, with all its flaws and all its enchantments. And very few men have been judged with so much severity by the posterity. And to this day, all the gossips which were repeated and created in 1770s at Versailles are still repeated today. To this day we are living in, you can see online the same gossips which have been created by his enemies at Versailles in 1775, which are still considered truth today. So Armand Louis de Gontaut-Biron, Duc de Lauzun, was born on April 13, 1747, Rue de Richelieu in Paris. He lives there with his father, Papa Gontaut, who is not actually his real father. He also lives here with le Duc de Choiseul, who is his uncle, but who is actually his real father. He also lived there with his two aunts, the wife of le Duc de Choiseul and the sister of le Duc de Choiseul. So he lives there with his two fathers and his two aunts, which is pretty modern. His mother unfortunately passed away when he was born. This is a portrait of him when he's about 5 or 6 years old, and he spent all his childhood at Versailles, as he said, on the lap of la Marquise de Pompadour. He's helping her to read, to write her letters, and he's really a favorite of the King Louis XV also. This is, by the way, the only show portrait we have of him. We have a lot of supposed portrait, recreation of portrait made in the 19th century, but this one at least is an authentic portrait of him as a child. We are going to hear what he says about his childhood.
Our trips to Versailles became more frequent, and my education more neglected.
I was, in other respects, like all the children of my age and kind, the prettiest clothes to go out, naked and dying of hunger at home. Here we meet for the first time in 1763 the lady who is supposed to become his wife. She is 12 years old at the time. He's not going to marry her at once, but it was just a first meeting he had with her at an afternoon ball. It is Amélie de Boufflers. And you can see her here on this famous painting with little Mozart who is playing on his harpsichord, and it is at Le Prince de Conti's house at l'Hôtel du Temple. And you see here Amélie holding a teapot à l'anglaise because she was serving the tea to her grandmother, la Maréchale de Luxembourg, that you are going to see soon. And she's doing it on her own without a servant who is helping her. So it was very new, very trendy, just like this big new thing which comes from England, and everybody was doing that. So you see her with her teapot and think it's normal. No, it's not normal at all for the time. It's something completely amazing. And the first time he sees her, he's absolutely devastated. He finds her horrible, extremely shy, extremely skinny, extremely not interesting. He has noticed quite a few beautiful young girls at this ball, this afternoon ball. He doesn't want to marry Amélie. This is not going to happen. So when he's back home, he's going to ask to Papa Gonto if it was possible not to marry Amélie. But Amélie, she's coming with 150,000 livres. It's impossible to refuse so much money. So unfortunately, he's going to have to marry her a few years later. And it's going to be a very unfortunate marriage. They will never be happy because Amélie, she can't compete with all the wonderful and extravagant women he's going to have in his life. She's not riding a horse on a battlefield and charging cavalry. She's not like Lady Barrymore, a volcanic lady doing crazy things. She doesn't do some striptease at Versailles like another marquise we are going to see a little later. She doesn't do any of that. She's just like this very shy, very well behaved, very accomplished young girl. But unfortunately, she has none of the qualities our Duke is looking for in a lady, though she could do some scrambled eggs really, really well. She showed a demonstration of scrambled eggs in a party they will have a little later, and her husband was not impressed. So unfortunately, it's not going to be a very happy marriage, which is absolutely classic in the 18th century. The 19th century has been very severe with the Duc de Lauzun, because he said many times in his memoir that he never liked his wife, he never liked her from the beginning. It was very clear, he said it to his father, to Papa Gonto, so it was not a surprise that he never liked her during their entire life. They will actually separate when he was about 30 years old, just because it was not working. For the 18th century, not being in love with your wife or with your husband is absolutely normal. It is expected, actually. Nobody really makes a fuss about that. And it is expected you will have some lovers and some mistresses in this class of the society. There is the famous story of a marquis who was just freshly married to his marquise, and he comes to see her and he told her, "You can have anyone you want, but I require no servants, no princes." Which means she can have any love affair she wants with any man, but the man shouldn't be in a lower station or a higher station than her husband, because it would make him feel a little uncomfortable. But otherwise, she could have anyone she wanted. Now, let's travel in 1767 at Le Prince de Conti's house, l'Hôtel du Temple, as he's about to receive Sarah Lennox. Le Prince de Conti was used to organize all sorts of fabulous receptions, parties, concerts in his place. He received Mozart, as you have previously seen, and he also received all the most beautiful women which were coming to Paris, artists, musicians, and also scientists. He used to give some suppers for 150 people every Monday, and during the carnival season he was doing a masked ball twice a week. But tonight he's receiving beautiful Sarah Lennox. She's just married Lord Bunbury. The King of England, George III, was passionately in love with her. He wanted to marry her, but after all, with all the problems he would have caused, he didn't marry her. So she married Lord Bunbury. She's just arriving in Paris. Everybody has talked about her, has talked of her beauty. All the gentlemen wanted to see her, and she had a tremendous success. Our hero was in duty at Versailles at the time, so he couldn't see her. He didn't see her at once, and he's really excited to meet her eventually. So he's arriving from Versailles to Le Prince de Conti's Hôtel du Temple to finally meet this beautiful Lady Sarah, who has been talked so much in Paris these past days.
I had been on duty at Versailles for some days when she arrived, and I had heard of her successes in Paris mentioned more than 20 times when I saw her at the temple for the first time on my return from Versailles. I arrived during the concert. Monsieur le Prince de Conti came to meet me with his usual amiability and led me to Lady Sarah. Je vous demande vos bontés, milady, pour mon Lauzun. Il est bien fou, bien extravagant, bien aimable. Il vous fera les honneurs de Paris mieux que personne. Permettez-moi de vous faire les siens. Je suis caution du désir qu'il a de vous plaire. A polite bow, a few words uttered between her teeth, were Lady Sarah's sole reply. I listened but little to the music. I approached all the ladies I knew. Madame de Cambis called me 20 times, whispered to me, neglected nothing to convince everyone that I had the honor of belonging to her. The young men surrounded me. My opinion of the newcomer interested them. The greater number awaited to settle upon their own, or at least to repeat it. I was beginning to be much in fashion, and without claiming to be an excellent original, I must admit that I had many copies and not one good. Elle n'est pas mal, mais je ne vois pas qu'il y ait de quoi tourner la tête. Si elle parlait bien français et qu'elle vint de Limoges, personne n'y prendrait garde. There was a general laugh at what I said. The conceit of Madame de Cambis, who heard it, was struck. Il a raison! Il est charmant. And behold, our poor lady was fallen. Dinner was announced at the table. Monsieur le Prince de Conti made me sit between Lady Sarah and Madame de Cambis, which ended absolutely the triumph of the latter. I hardly noticed the displeasure which my excessive attention to the beautiful foreigner gave her. I thought of nothing else. I became acquainted with her husband, I did him favors which he appreciated, and I found means to become a friend of the house. I shortly after made a declaration. She appeared not to hear me. I wrote, the letter was returned to me, and I was told at the first opportunity in tones quite indifferent and without anger, I am not seeking for a lover. Judge if I can have a French lover who is worth more than 10 by the noise he makes and the trouble he causes. And you above all, Monsieur le Duc, you do me too much honor. Do not lose your time around me. Do not speak of love if you do not wish me to close my door on you. I was too seriously in love to be discouraged. I decided to keep silent and to wait for happier times.
They will eventually have an affair. Lauzun is going to go and follow her in England. She wanted them to elope in Jamaica. She was really extravagant, even more than him. He's not going to follow her in all her extravagant projects. Their relationship is going to end. They will be both heartbroken. But it was one of his first very important love stories that he's talking about in his memoirs. When Le Prince de Conti says that Lauzun was very wild as he's introducing him to Lady Sarah, he was not talking lightly. He actually saw him in a very strange situation a few weeks before. He was on his way to have a supper at la Duchesse d'Orléans' house, and he decided to stop at le Duc de Lauzun's little house. A little house in the 18th century is not a charming, cute little cottage or something like that. It's a house for extramarital activities of all kinds that both man and woman can have, women for their lovers and men for their mistresses. and to receive anyone they want in their private, separated house, which is always called une petite maison. So when you see the expression une petite maison in any 18th century text, it means it's for extramarital adventures. So he stopped at the little petite maison of le Duc de Lauzun to see what he was doing, because he saw some light through the window and he was wondering what he was doing there. So he came in and he had the most surprising vision ever. He saw le Duc de Lauzun seated comfortably at a table having supper with two extremely strange ladies. They were giant ladies, super tall ladies who came from the fair, from La Foire Saint-Germain, which is a very popular fair with all sorts of acrobats, circus people, marionettes, shows, plays, sellers of all kinds. So these two giant ladies, they came from the fair, and le Duc de Lauzun invited them to have supper at his little house. Le Prince de Conti will send a message to la Duchesse d'Orléans, where he was supposed to dine just after, saying, "I am sorry, you are going to be sacrificed for grander women than you." Now let's join this carriage with Madame Briand, who is the cat of La Maréchale de Luxembourg, and she follows La Maréchale anywhere she goes, and this time they are going to Chanteloup, which belonged to le Duc and la Duchesse de Choiseul. On December 24, 1770, le Duc de Choiseul, who was the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Louis XV, had been fired by the king. He has been exiled to his chateau de Chanteloup instantly for an indefinite time. And the reason was le Duc de Choiseul didn't agree with the new mistress of the king, la Comtesse du Barry, who was increasing her power more and more at Versailles. There were a lot of political and religious reasons for that, but le Duc de Choiseul was a ferocious enemy of la Comtesse du Barry, who was the king's mistress. And the king decided that he will have to choose between la Comtesse and le Duc de Choiseul, and if he had to choose, he would choose to keep la Comtesse, and the Duc de Choiseul would be in exile. So when a minister is in exile, or someone from the court, le Duc d'Orléans, it happened quite a bit that some famous big characters of the kingdom are in exile in their property, which usually is wonderful anyway. It's just like little Versailles everywhere. They are very comfortable and cozy in their place, but it is a power that the king has, and he can use it if he's a little bothered by one character of the kingdom. But what is amazing this time is that le Duc de Choiseul will receive an amazing support from the entire kingdom. All the French people are on his side. When he's about to leave his hotel Rue Richelieu to go to his chateau de Chanteloup, there will be people everywhere, on the roofs, on the windows, on their way, and he was not expecting that at all. He was the first surprised to see so many people on his side supporting him, not understanding the king's decision. So this day, le Duc de Lauzun, who was his nephew, of course, nephew son, will instantly join his uncle. He will take some money, some lettres de change, some money that he can change if they decide to go abroad for some protection, for example, but he doesn't hesitate. He follows his uncle at once, and for however the length will be. Though, as he is on duty, he's part of les gardes françaises, which is part of the army, he has to go back once in a while to do his duty at Versailles. But when he is not on duty, he spends all his time at Chanteloup, le château de Chanteloup, who is actually there. It's not totally glued to Paris, it's a bit far, but it's a beautiful, wonderful property. And people talk about this earthquake in the French politics everywhere. The English magazines are full of that. They talk about Chanteloup and the Duc de Choiseul all the time, and all the English people, when they come to Paris in 1770, they also have to go to Chanteloup. So little by little, week after week, more and more people come to see le Duc de Choiseul in his chateau. He will receive some guests and some visitors from all over Europe. And people come and go from Chanteloup to Paris constantly. The road which is coming from Chanteloup going to Paris is full and covered with carriages. We are going to hear what l'Abbé Barthélemy, who was a friend of the Duc de Choiseul, says about this life in the chateau during this time. My goodness, so many people, so much cries, so much noise, so much loud, so many doors closed, so many doors open, so many conversations, so many waggish tricks, so many voices, so many arms, so many feet, so many bursts of laughter in the billiard room, in the parlor, in the harpsichord room. So among the visitors at Chanteloup, there was Madame Briand, the cat which belonged to la Maréchale de Luxembourg, who is Amélie's grandmother, so le Duc de Lauzun step-grandmother. She follows her mistress absolutely anywhere she goes in her carriage, and this time she's going to meet Lindor, the dog of le Duc de Choiseul, but they are going to be totally fine. The only one who is afraid of her is la Duchesse de Choiseul, who is afraid of cats. But la Duchesse de Choiseul, she adores animals, and you are going to see what happens at Chanteloup. There are some very specific things you will see here, you will not see anywhere else. La Duchesse, she adores her animals and she adores her sheep. And the sheep, they can do absolutely what they want. If they want to go in the living room, they go in the living room, they make themselves comfortable. And if they want to slide on the polished French wood floor, they can do it. They can absolutely do it. And the one who does it the best is Cathédrale. Cathédrale is her favorite sheep. It's a monstrous sheep. That's why he is called Cathédrale. And everybody in the chateau, all the guests, all the family likes to see Cathédrale sliding on the wood floor. It is so hilarious. Now, you are going to say, is it really wise to let your sheep slide and ruin your beautiful polished wood floor? Here you are thinking like a bourgeois. An aristocrat doesn't think like that. An aristocrat thinks, is it really hilarious to see Cathedral and all the sheep sliding on the wood floor right now? And the reply is absolutely yes, it's the most sensible thing to do right now. Now we are going to see what a typical day is at Chanteloup during these years. La Duchesse, she likes to wake up pretty late. La Duchesse de Choiseul, she likes to wake up at around 10 o'clock. Usually in the morning you do your correspondence, you do what you want. They eat at around 12. Then in the afternoon they can do some walks, they can go outside. In the evening at 7 they have to gather in le Grand Salon at Chanteloup. And they have to wear their grand panier and all their jewelries. All the women have to be extremely well dressed. They would play some dominoes and all sorts of games. If you prefer, you can also look at some engravings, which is a charming thing to do. And then you will have supper at 9. After supper, this is the time for conversation. This is the best moment of the day. They all gather in the Grand Salon and here they are going to talk and to tell stories. Le Duc de Choiseul is the best for that. He loves stories. He has so many fun stories to tell and he also likes to do his tapestries. He likes to work on his tapestry while he's telling his stories. Why are you surprised? Why a former Minister of Foreign Affairs couldn't do some tapestry if he wants to? So he is seated on his chair and he has his tapestry loom in front of him and he tells his stories, which are usually stories about his colleagues he didn't like or what everybody was doing wrong at Versailles, and usually it's very funny and all the audience is captivated by what he has to say. He's not the only one to tell stories. There is also Papa Gontaut, who is very good with his stories too, le Duc de Lauzun, and many more. And they will talk like that till usually 3 or 4 a.m. sometimes. Le Duc de Choiseul was known for his bon mot, his répartie. He always had very funny and sharp things to say. For example, once he said that, yes, the king would be such a good king if he didn't have all the flaws of a bad one. Once he did a contest with one of his colleagues at the government le duc de Praslin, and they were deciding who was the most stupid at Versailles. Was it the king, Louis XV, or was it Monsieur de Lavrière, who was another minister? So, Monsieur de Praslin, le duc de Praslin, said it was Monsieur de Lavrière by far. And le duc de Choiseul said, no way, it is the king Louis XV, 100%. A little later, they had a council with all the ministers, and Louis XV, the king, was here too. And suddenly, the king said the most stupid thing ever during the assembly. There, le Duc de Choiseul has a big smile on his face. He looks at le Duc de Praslin and he says to him, "Eh bien, Monsieur le Duc, what do you think about that?" And at Chanteloup, they like to do a lot of things. There are a lot of distractions. Lauzun is always trying to find new distractions to keep everybody busy and occupied and uplifted. One day, they decide they are going to do some kites. And for 1 week, it is a kite fever at Chanteloup. You see kites in the sky all the time, especially at night. They like to have a little candle hung on the kite and they play with the kites, which is absolutely filling the sky above Chanteloup. They do that for 1 week, then they're a little bored, so they change to another distraction and becomes the theater. Suddenly it's the theater, the drama fever. Everywhere in the castle you see people rehearsing, trying to learn their parts, and they don't choose the easiest play for amateurs. They want to play the real thing, the tragedies. So you see everyone in the castle, in every corner, learning their part or trying to learn it, trying costumes, and then eventually doing the play in front of everyone. There is another Jane Austen moment in the memoirs. This is with Marion Holland. She's the sister of Fanny, and with their mother, they have been acquaintance of Lauzun for a few years, and is fighting them again in London in 1773. And they are going to correspond in the most creative way so that Mama Holland is not going to suspect that her daughter is having an affair with Lauzun. It's not exactly an affair, it's just the very beginning.
Miss Marion Holland n'avait pas 16 ans, elle est petite, mignonne, de beaux cheveux, de jolis yeux, des dents charmantes, une voix comme celle de la Gabrielli et dont elle se sert aussi bien, une grande coquetterie, toujours subordonnée à l'ambition. Telle est, je crois, l'exacte description de la figure et du caractère de Miss Marion Holland. L'amour-propre de Marianne était très flatté d'avoir un amant français. Elle avait d'ailleurs dans ce temps-là beaucoup de goût pour moi, et je l'aimais de mon côté bien tendrement. Nous nous écrivions sans cesse et nous nous donnions nos lettres devant la bonne Milady, sans qu'elle se doutât de rien. Lady Ireland revint à Londres, je trouvais encore moyen de me raccommoder avec elle et de rentrer dans la maison. Nous mettions plus de circonspection dans notre conduite et la pauvre petite femme n'était pas plus difficile à attraper. Cela fut à merveille pendant quelques semaines. Une lettre que Marianne perdit étourdiment nous découvrit encore. Sa mère partit sur le champ de Londres avec ses filles sans leur dire où elle allait. Marianne, dont l'adresse réparait toujours l'étourderie, écrivit sur un de ses gants avec un petit morceau de charbon. « On m'emmène Dieu sait où, je l'écrirai sur les vitres de la première auberge où nous nous arrêterons. Cherche-la. Si nous n'étions pas tous les deux les plus intelligentes créatures qu'il y ait au monde, nous serions à jamais séparés. » Sur le dessus du chiffon était écrit « Pour Monsieur de Lauzun, chez l'ambassadeur de France, il donnera 5 guinées au porteur. » Je montai à cheval dès que j'eus ce plaisant billet, qui me parvint heureusement, et dès le 4e jour de mes recherches, je trouvai la vitre par laquelle je devais apprendre le sort de ma jolie petite maîtresse. Elle m'avertissait qu'elle allait pour 3 semaines à la campagne, chez une amie de sa mère, et de là retournerait à Ipswich en passant par Winchester. Qu'elle attendait une lettre de moi par quelques moyens qu'elle n'imaginait pas, mais que je trouverais sûrement. Elle ne se trompait pas. Je m'adressais à M. Sexton, mon maître d'anglais, pauvre diable comme Basile, prêt à tout entreprendre pour un écu. Je l'envoyai à Winchester dans une chaise de poste avec sa femme et ses 3 enfants pour n'être pas suspect. Il s'acquitta très adroitement de sa commission. Il attendit Lady Holland et comme elle entrait dans la chambre, il arrêta Miss Marion Holland et lui dit « J'ai une lettre de Monsieur de Lauzun pour vous. Elle est dans la poche du tablier de cet enfant. Vous la prendrez quand vous voudrez. » Elle ne fut pas longtemps sans la venir chercher, mais elle mit sur un morceau de papier ce peu de mots. J'ai reçu la lettre. Toute la famille a parfaitement bien fait sa commission. J'aime à la folie le plus adroit et le plus intelligent de tous les hommes. » Mais hélas, une étourdie de Marianne perdit tout. Nous nous écrivions exactement, elle portait elle-même et allait sans affectation chercher en se promenant les lettres à la poste. La maison de poste changea, on en parla à déjeuner à Sproughton. Marianne dit étourdiment où était la nouvelle maison de poste. Lady Harlan lui demanda comment elle le savait. Elle répondit avec un peu d'embarras qu'une demoiselle du voisinage avec qui elle était sortie le matin y avait porté une lettre. Lady Harlan sortit et demanda plus adroitement qu'à elle au domestique qui avait suivi sa fille.
Let's go to the play in Paris in 1775. He's going to meet there one of his oldest English acquaintance, Lady Barrymore, the beautiful, volcanic Lady Barrymore, who is 25 years old. She is extremely beautiful, extremely rich, and she is a widow. She had been very lucky that her husband, an old lord, died when she was still in her early 20s. Sir Horace Walpole, a famous English writer, said that Lady Barrymore is going to make so many conquests. I have never seen a woman receiving so much admiration. So it gives you a bit an idea of the interest that was surrounding Lady Barrymore in Paris. She will be the mistress of le Duc de Lauzun in 24 hours. He had never been so efficient in his life. He was extremely proud of that. He's going to find out very quickly that she has an affair with someone else, the brother of the king, and we will see how she defends herself.
A grand ball at the Palais Royal, which Madame la Duchesse de Chartres gave to the Queen, was, I believe, the occasion of the first act of infidelity which Lady Barrymore committed towards me and which was followed by many others. From the Palais Royal ball, the guests strolled to that of the opera. Lady Barrymore went to Monsieur le Duc de Chartres' box with Monsieur le Comte d'Artois, and God knows what occurred there. Monsieur le Duc de Chartres, who knew on what terms I was with Lady Barrymore, told me about it the next day. I spoke to her. She told me with an appearance of truth that it was true that she had gone upstairs with Monsieur le Comte d'Artois to get a better view of the ball, but that it might be considered indiscreet, not very proper, but that nothing wrong had occurred and that she had come down a few minutes after. I'm not naturally suspicious. I was not jealous. I believed her. I daily discovered in her more wit and grace, and she was capable of order, application, and serious reasoning. I became attached to her. I almost fell in love with her, but her frivolity, her quick temper, her absolute lack of principle stopped me. Yet I was not displeased with her conduct when one day, when one of Monsieur le Comte d'Artois' servants, who had long been mine and was most attached to me, thought to render me a service and prevent annoyances by informing me that Monsieur le Comte d'Artois, as well as I, had Lady Barrymore, and gave me proof of what he said. Shocked at her faithlessness, I attempted to reproach her. She listened to me with an assurance which confounded me. I admit it, she said, and in truth should have told you had I not feared your warmth and your quickness. I have never had the intention of deceiving you. I wanted to end all intimacy with her. Lauzun, she said to me, you do wrong in leaving me. You please me. You suit me. I like you very much, but my freedom is dearer to me than you. I shall not sacrifice it to you. I shall not bear that my lover should be a jealous husband, annoying, imperious, and particular as to my fidelity. I care little for Monsieur le Comte d'Artois. I could give him up without difficulty, but I do not wish to make sacrifices, I declare to you. I shall keep him without making much of him, and I am far from having for him the sentiments with which you have inspired me. See, she added, pointing at a wallet on the table. They are all his letters. Take them. Keep them, do whatever you please with them. I swear to you that I shall never make the same use of yours. I was astonished and didn't answer. She continued, Let us not quarrel, Lauzun, over so small a matter. The attention of the Comte d'Artois amuse me, flatter perhaps my conceit and my vanity. How can I help it? He is a youth, a toy that I do not wish taken from me, but will not hinder from you always finding in me the tenderest, unconstrained, and the sincerest interest. My taste leans towards you. I promise that you shall never be importuned by my little fellow, that he shall not have one single moment of those which I have so much pleasure in giving you. I have never taken in anyone an interest so real, so lively as I have in you. I do not wish to be your slave. I should be very sorry to no longer be your mistress. As to Monsieur le Comte d'Artois, she kept her word. I never met him. Her conduct was what she had said it would be. She was not exacting, and every moment I didn't spend at Versailles, she desired that I should give it to her, with an infinite grace, and I went to her house every night. The appointments she had with Monsieur le Comte d'Artois did not disturb me. During one of the hardest winters I have ever experienced in France, she amused herself in making him wait 4 or 5 hours in his cabriolet in the middle of the Place Louis XV, and I didn't leave her house one moment sooner. I usually didn't know it, and when I seemed to suspect it, she did all in her power to make me remain longer. On that account, poor Artois courted in a frightful manner. He was well aware to whom he was under obligation for this, but he never imagined that I was in the secret.
Lauzun will eventually end this relationship with Lady Barrymore because she's going to cheat on him with all the gentlemen of the court at Versailles, and he thought it was just a little too much. But they will always remain friends, and we will see that Lady Barrymore never really forgets him either. Throughout his life, le Duc de Lauzun has constantly been traveling between France and England. He was constantly in London, he was subscribed to the London magazine, and this is where he found all his best ideas to ruin England, because he's obsessed with ruining England in any way possible. He also learned English, which has been extremely important throughout his life. And here he's going to tell us a very special supper he had in London at the Marquis de Noailles' house, who was the ambassador for France in London. And he's going to relate a bit how this night was going. So he was a spy for the court of France, and he was supposed to do the kind of work that the ambassador was not exactly doing really well.
Going more into society than I had ever done since I was in England, I saw people of every party who spoke freely before me, and without trying, I was soon well posted on all public affairs, and I learned interesting matters in which le Marquis de Noailles, our ambassador, couldn't know. He had intelligence, consideration, and were it not for the mistake of living too retired a life, I believe he would have been a good ambassador. I believe that he would have gone into society more had it not been for the unimaginable stupidity of his wife, who embarrassed him every instant by the unbelievable things she said without anything being able to stop her. I cannot help giving an example. At a very grand dinner given at her residence, she suddenly said that she could not understand why people spoke so much of the modesty of English women, that there were no women in Europe whose morals were more depraved, and that they spent their lives in evil places. One can imagine the despair and consternation of the Marquis de Noailles. But Madame de Noailles, but really, do you consider? Do you know what you are saying? Yes, monsieur, yes, I am sure of it. And during the last mass ball, the Duchess of Devonshire and Lady Granby were for more than 3 hours in a evil place of the neighbourhood. The ambassador almost died of mortification, and the others of laughter. Chance caused to fall into my hands a copy of Lord North's conciliatory bill for America, long before he read it in Parliament. I went to the Marquis de Noailles to ask him if he had read it. He affected the most important and ministerial air and answered, "Yes, I knew this was impossible," and changed the conversation. He tried to question me about the bill. I didn't answer, and I went away. I didn't write to Monsieur de Vergennes, with whom I had fallen out, but I at once sent a messenger to Monsieur de Maurepas. He showed my letter to the king, and the Marquis Noailles was only able to give an account of the matter 2 weeks after.
I hope you have enjoyed this first episode of our Versailles Chronicles. We will come back revisiting other pages of Le Duc de Lauzun's memoirs. We will also have a special episode all about winter and Christmas at Versailles, and you are going to see this one very soon. You can give a thumbs up if you appreciated what you saw, and you can subscribe if you don't want to miss all the nice videos coming, including all the Versailles Chronicles. Thank you very much, and I will see you very soon.
The paper tricorns you have seen comes from my musical Paper Christmas workshop that you can join on my workshop's website, learnthemagicofpaper.com. The link is below. Le Duc de Lauzun's memoirs are available on Amazon translated in English and in reprint, though a few pages and passages have been deleted in the English edition, including all the spicy pages. And in the French edition, some have the spicy pages, some don't. The rich and precious biography, only available in French, of Le Duc de Lauzun by Gaston Maugrat, a specialist of the 18th century in the 19th century, was a very big help, and all the fun anecdotes and complementary informations come from this big biography in 2 volumes. The biography written by his descendant was another gold mine of informations, which gives a fair perspective on his life and actions. The memoirs of Madame Campan, first chambermaid of Marie-Antoinette, will be mainly used for the next episodes. And before I leave, this is a little bonus, another excerpt when Le Duc de Lauzun meets for the first time a Polish princess, Izabela Czartoryska, that will be one of the big passions of his life. Une femme mieux mise et mieux coiffée que les Anglaises ne le sont ordinairement entra dans la chambre. Je demandai qui elle était. On me répondit qu'elle était polonaise et que c'était Madame la princesse Czartoryska. Une taille médiocre, mais parfaite, les plus beaux yeux, les plus beaux cheveux, les plus belles dents, un très joli pied, très brune, fort marquée de la petite vérole et sans fraîcheur, mais douce dans ses manières et dans ses moindres mouvements d'une grâce inimitable. Madame Czartoryska prouvait que sans être jolie, on pouvait être charmante. Audio